No one ever really tells you this, and it doesn't matter how carefully you've lived your life, not how well you ate, how consistently you exercised, or how many healthy habits you built along the way. Once a person crosses the age of 75, 5 biological shifts begin inside the body. They activate in everyone. There are no exceptions. These changes do not arrive with pain. They don't come with clear warning signs. Most of the time, they don't announce themselves at all. They begin quietly, often years before a person notices anything feels different. In some cases, one of these shifts starts affecting the brain 3 or 4 years before the first subtle signal appears. By the time people sense that something has changed, the process has already been unfolding in silence. That's why understanding what happens after 75 matters. Not to create fear and not to label the body as broken, but to recognize how human biology is designed to change and how those changes influence energy, strength, and daily independence. This stage of life brings a different set of rules. When you understand them, you can make choices that support how your body works now rather than fighting how it worked decades ago. If you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, this knowledge helps you prepare with clarity. And if you have parents, partners, or loved ones in their late 70s and beyond, it helps you support them with understanding instead of confusion. I invite you to stay with me through this conversation. What you'll hear can change how you look at aging and how you care for the body you live in every day. What surprises many people is that these changes are not random. They are not caused by a single habit, a missed supplement, or a mistake made later in life. They follow a biological program that has been present since early adulthood. For decades, it runs quietly in the background, largely invisible. Then, around the mid-70s, that program becomes measurable and visible across nearly every system in the body. This is why scientists see the same patterns again and again in large population studies. People with very different lifestyles still move through the same sequence of changes. Some arrive there stronger. Some arrive with more reserve, but the direction itself does not change. Healthy living still matters. It shapes how well the body adapts. It influences resilience, recovery, and daily comfort. What it does not do is stop biological aging from unfolding. This is where an important distinction needs to be clear. Aging is not the same thing as disease. Disease is a disruption of normal function. Aging is a shift in how normal function is expressed over time. After 75, many changes feel unfamiliar, and that unfamiliarity is often mistaken for illness. Sleep becomes lighter, energy fluctuates differently, muscles respond more slowly, balance feels less automatic. These are not failures of the body. They are signals that the body is operating under a new biological design. When people understand this, their decisions change. They stop chasing their 40s. They start supporting the body they have now. That mindset becomes the foundation for everything that follows. One of the earliest changes to appear after 75 happens quietly inside the brain, and it reshapes sleep from the inside out. Most people assume aging simply means needing fewer hours of rest. What actually changes is the structure of sleep itself. The brain begins to rewrite its sleep architecture. The stages that once flowed smoothly through the night no longer follow the same pattern. You may still spend the same amount of time in bed, yet wake up feeling less restored than you expect. Deep sleep becomes less available. This is the phase that used to do much of the overnight rebuilding. After 75, it no longer appears consistently each night, even in people who fall asleep easily and sleep for 7 or 8 hours. As a result, sleep can feel lighter, more fragile, easier to interrupt. Many people notice they wake up several times during the night. Sometimes They turn over. Sometimes they glance at the clock. Often, they fall back asleep without fully realizing they were awake at all. These brief awakenings are part of the new pattern. They happen quietly and frequently, fragmenting the night without fully breaking it. This is why mornings may feel different, even when bedtime routines haven't changed. What's important to understand is that this is not a sign that sleep is failing. It is a sign that sleep is operating under a different blueprint. Waking during the night does not automatically mean something is wrong. It reflects how the aging brain conserves energy and cycles through rest in shorter segments. Trying to force sleep back into an earlier pattern often creates frustration. Working with a new rhythm tends to create more ease. The experience of sleep after 75 is different, not defective, recognizing that difference changes how the night is approached. As sleep changes, the body's internal clock changes with it. After 75, the circadian rhythm begins to run earlier than it once did. Many people notice they feel sleepy sooner in the evening. They may also wake up earlier in the morning, sometimes well before sunrise. This is not a bad habit forming. It reflects how the brain now responds to light and darkness. The timing of light becomes more important than the number of hours spent in bed. Morning light helps anchor alertness during the day. Even a short period of brightness early in the day can make the body feel more awake and steady. In the evening, the opposite matters. Lower light levels help the brain settle. Bright screens late at night often interfere with that settling process, even when the body feels tired. Temperature also plays a role, as the ability to regulate body heat during sleep changes. Cooler rooms often feel more comfortable. The environment begins to do some of the work that the body once handled on its own. Many people at this age discover a pattern that feels unfamiliar at first. They sleep for a few hours, wake naturally, then fall asleep again later. This split sleep pattern was common before electric lighting and fixed schedules became the norm. That quiet waking period in the middle of the night does not need to be fought. When it is treated as a calm pause rather than a problem, falling back asleep often becomes easier. What no longer helps is trying to force the body into the rhythm it had decades ago. Sleep after 75 works best when it is supported, not pushed. Another shift that begins around 75 affects something most people never think about until it changes. The body's ability to sense and manage temperature becomes less precise. For most of adult life, the body adjusts quietly to heat and cold. You step outside, and the body adapts. You add a layer, take one off, and everything stays balanced without much effort. After 75, that automatic regulation becomes less reliable. The internal thermostat no longer reads conditions as accurately as it once did. You may feel cold when others are comfortable, or warm when the room seems mild to everyone else. One reason is that the body produces less heat throughout the day. Earlier in life, muscles and tissues generated steady warmth even at rest. Now that background heat is lower, so small changes in the environment feel bigger. Sweating also becomes less effective. This makes it harder to release excess warmth on warmer days or during activity. The body may hold on to heat longer than it should without sending a clear signal that something needs to change. What makes this shift challenging is that sensation becomes less dependable. Thirst may not appear when hydration is low. Shivering may not start when temperatures drop. The cues that once guided behavior are quieter. As a result, people over 75 can move into uncomfortable or unsafe temperature ranges without realizing it right away. This is why environment matters more than ever at this stage of life. Indoor temperature, clothing choices, and daily routines begin to do some of the work the body once handled automatically. Stable surroundings reduce strain and help preserve energy across the day. Understanding this change reframes it. It's not about being fragile. It's about recognizing that temperature management now depends more on awareness than sensation. As temperature regulation becomes less precise, daily safety depends less on sensation and more on structure. After 75, relying only on how the body feels can be misleading. The environment begins to matter more than ever. Keeping indoor spaces within a steady, moderate range reduces strain on the body throughout the day. Rooms that feel slightly warm in winter or gently cool in summer often provide the most comfort, even if they feel different from earlier years. Hydration becomes part of this same strategy. Thirst is no longer a reliable signal. Many people can become low on fluids without ever feeling the urge to drink. Small, regular sips throughout the day help maintain balance without waiting for a cue that may not arrive. Clothing choices also shift from habit to intention. Layers allow quick adjustments as body temperature changes, which can happen more frequently now. A light sweater, a scarf, or breathable fabrics can make transitions easier without overcorrecting. The key change here is timing. Instead of reacting after discomfort appears, adjustments work best when they are made ahead of time. The body responds more smoothly when conditions stay within a narrow, predictable range. This approach isn't about restriction. It's about reducing unnecessary stress so energy can be used for movement, thinking, and daily life. When the environment carries more of the load, the body can remain steadier across changing conditions. Another shift that quietly becomes noticeable after 75 involves digestion, and it often shows up in everyday comfort rather than obvious illness. Eating the same foods at the same pace can suddenly feel different. The first change begins before food even reaches the stomach. The coordination of swallowing becomes slower and less precise. What once happened automatically now takes more effort, and meals may need more time. Saliva production also decreases. That early step of digestion, which helps soften food and prepare for the rest of the process, is no longer as efficient. As a result, food reaches the stomach in a less prepared state. Inside the stomach, digestion continues to change. The environment that once handled meals easily now works more gradually. This can affect how comfortably food is broken down and how nutrients are absorbed. Farther along, movement through the intestines slows as well. The rhythm that carried food forward at a steady pace becomes more gradual. This is why bowel habits often change with age, even when diet stays the same. What many people experience as bloating, fullness, or constipation is rarely random. It reflects how the digestive system now moves and processes food at a different speed. These changes can feel concerning when they appear without explanation, but they are part of a broader biological shift rather than a sudden failure. When digestion slows, the body benefits from patience and consistency. Meals that feel manageable, time to chew, and regular routines become more important than variety or speed. Understanding this shift helps remove unnecessary worry. The system is still working, just under a new set of conditions. As digestion slows, eating works best when it becomes more intentional rather than more restrictive. The goal is not to remove enjoyment from meals, but to match habits to how the body now processes food. Many people find that smaller portions feel more comfortable. Instead of relying on a few large meals, spreading food more evenly across the day reduces strain and keeps energy steadier. The body handles moderate amounts more easily than heavy loads at one time. How food is eaten begins to matter as much as what is eaten. Chewing thoroughly becomes a powerful support. When each bite is broken down well, the rest of the digestive process requires less effort and moves more smoothly. Some people notice that meals feel easier when the pace slows. Putting utensils down between bites and allowing time to finish can make a noticeable difference in comfort. As digestion changes, the body may also appreciate extra support before food reaches the stomach. Certain older adults choose to include gentle digestive aids as part of their routine, especially when meals feel heavier than expected. This is about assisting a slower system, not correcting a problem. Foods that naturally contain beneficial cultures often become more appealing at this stage. They are simple additions that many people enjoy regularly, especially alongside familiar meals. What matters most is consistency. Regular timing, manageable portions, and calm eating environments help the digestive system settle into a predictable rhythm. Eating after 75 becomes less about rules and more about alignment with the body's current pace. Another biological shift after 75 affects balance, and it often begins long before a person feels unsteady. Many people are surprised to learn that the change starts quietly, sometimes years in advance. Balance depends on several systems working together at the same time. One of them is the inner ear, which senses motion and head position. With age, those signals become less sharp, even when hearing seems unchanged. At the same time, the body's awareness of position begins to fade. The subtle feedback from muscles and joints that once guided each step becomes quieter. You may still walk confidently, yet the margin for error grows smaller. Vision also plays a role that often goes unnoticed. Seeing clearly is not the same as processing contrast, depth, and movement. As these visual cues change, the brain receives less precise information about the environment. What makes this shift difficult to recognize is that it doesn't arrive as dizziness or obvious imbalance. Everything can feel normal until one unexpected moment breaks the pattern. A misjudged step, a slight turn, a surface that feels different than expected. This is why falls can seem sudden and unexplained. The body is responding more slowly to changes it once corrected automatically. The experience is not a loss of awareness. It is a delay in coordination between systems that now require more time to communicate. Understanding this helps explain why balance issues feel unpredictable at this stage of life. They are developing quietly beneath the level of everyday sensation. As balance changes quietly, the encouraging part is that it does not become fixed or unchangeable. The body can still learn, adapt, and respond when it is given the right kind of practice. Balance improves when movement is slow, deliberate, and repeated. Gentle exercises that shift weight from one side to the other help the brain reconnect information from the feet, legs, and inner ear. Simple actions, done consistently, teach the body how to stay oriented again. Daily life rarely involves standing still, and balance training works best when it reflects that reality. Combining movement with light mental tasks helps the brain manage more than one signal at a time. Walking while counting steps, turning the head while standing, or changing direction slowly builds confidence in real-world situations. The environment plays an equally important role. Clear pathways, steady lighting, and familiar layouts reduce unexpected challenges. Small adjustments in the home can quietly support stability throughout the day. Footwear also matters more than many people realize. Shoes with firm soles, good traction, and low heels provide a stable base for every step. At this stage of life, footwear becomes a tool for support rather than a style choice. Independence after 75 depends less on chance and more on preparation. When balance is trained and surroundings are supportive, movement becomes steadier and more predictable. Another major shift after 75 shows up in the muscles, and it goes far beyond simply feeling weaker. The body begins to lose muscle at a faster pace than at any earlier stage of life. This change affects how the body moves, rises, carries, and steadies itself. Standing up from a chair takes more effort. Climbing stairs feels heavier. Everyday tasks ask for more attention than they once did. What's happening is not just a gradual fading. The system that once repaired and refreshed muscle tissue becomes less responsive. After normal daily use, muscles take longer to recover and regain strength. At the same time, energy within the muscle tissue becomes less available. Movements that were once automatic can now feel draining, even when they are familiar. This is why fatigue may appear after activities that used to feel easy. The change can feel sudden because it builds quietly. Strength may seem stable for years, then shift noticeably over a shorter period of time. This often surprises people who have stayed active and engaged. Muscle is deeply connected to independence. It supports balance, posture, and confidence in motion. When muscle changes accelerate, daily life begins to feel more effortful, not because of a lack of will, but because the body is working under new conditions. Recognizing this shift helps explain why strength now needs more attention and intention than before. Movement still matters, but the body responds differently than it did in earlier decades. Even as muscle changes accelerate, the body does not stop responding. It simply becomes more selective about the signals it listens to. Nutrition begins to work best when it is spread out rather than concentrated. Instead of relying on one large protein-heavy meal, smaller amounts taken consistently across the day tend to feel more supportive. This steady rhythm gives muscle tissue repeated opportunities to respond. Certain building blocks appear to matter more now than they once did. Many people notice better results when meals include foods that naturally contain key amino acids associated with muscle maintenance. The goal isn't excess, it's clarity of signal. Movement follows a similar principle. Exercise does not need to be intense to be effective. What matters is that muscles are invited to work with intention and regularity. Timing also changes the experience. Earlier in the day often feels more comfortable for movement when energy is steadier and coordination feels clearer. Sessions may be shorter, but they tend to feel more productive. Recovery takes longer than it once did, and that becomes part of the design rather than a limitation. Allowing extra time between sessions helps the body settle and respond without strain. Rest is no longer passive, it becomes part of the training itself. The pattern that emerges is simple. Muscle still adapts when it receives clear, consistent signals and enough time to respond. Strength after 75 is less about pushing harder and more about working precisely with how the body now functions. By now, one thing should feel clear. These 5 changes are not signs of failure. They are not diseases, and they are not punishments for getting older. They reflect how human biology is designed to shift later in life. The body follows a pattern that has been written into it for decades. After 75, that pattern simply becomes easier to notice. When these changes are misunderstood, they often create unnecessary worry. Sleep feels different, so people assume something is wrong. Digestion changes, balance feels less automatic, strength takes more effort, and fear fills the gap left by explanation. Understanding replaces that fear with direction. When you know what is happening, your response becomes calmer and more deliberate. You stop reacting late and start supporting the body earlier. Sleep can be approached with rhythm instead of frustration. Digestion can be supported with consistency instead of concern. Balance becomes something you prepare for, not something you hope for. Muscle becomes something you maintain with intention, not something you wait to lose. These choices protect more than comfort. They support independence, confidence, and daily energy. They help the body do what it can still do well under the conditions it now lives in. If something you heard today stood out to you, you're welcome to share it. Many people find value in hearing which change others are paying attention to. Thank you for spending this time with me and for being part of this conversation.